Peoples of Reddit, when did you first realize that someone close to you is racist or a horrible person? My Asian parents are pretty xenophobic. They call black people Heligwe, which is basically black demon. I learned the lexicon and was talking to my uncle and mentioned this Heligwe. It's just what I started to call black people. I didn't know what it really meant. My uncle told me what it meant and corrected my label to Heliren or black person. OMG, this is my worst fear. I'm half Chinese and I don't know if I picked up something like that from my mom, who is very xenophobic. When I was a little girl watching Static Shock, my uncle walked into my room, looked at the TV and said, "Don't watch that show, it's for N-ers." I ask because I was recently invited to a family dinner where close family friends would also be attending. Someone I knew for most of my teenage years was there and we chatted to catch up on things. During the course of our conversation, the topic of racial profiling came up and this person straight up said the all blacks are N and most likely did it anyways in front of quite a few people. I can honestly say, I was in shock. I've never knew this person to be this way and didn't know how to react to such a comment. Nor have I ever encountered someone so open about. I think from the awkward silence that followed, she realized her mistake, but I just excused myself from the conversation and avoided her. What made this even more awkward was her defense of "I have black friends so I'm not xenophobic" argument after she got called out on it. I asked her to pass something to me and she threw it on the floor and told me to go fetch. I was done looking past her snide backhanded jokes. I was so over it at this point. When my, now deceased, grandfather took his 3 grandsons aside and promised us extra money in the will for any of us who married a Japanese woman. We are all white, but grandfather said that Japanese women made better wives. Knew someone who told me that he preferred dating Asian women because they are the most loyal. I am an Asian woman and he said this to my face. LOL. I'm white and my sister was dating a black guy a few years ago. My dad and I were driving one day and we passed my sister's boyfriend walking down the road and I said, "Oh, hey, there's sister's boyfriend," and my dad said, "How can you be sure? They all look alike." My dad also referred to my Filipino boyfriend at the time as wonton. The wonton thing is so weird, it's like calling a white person pot roast or spaghetti. Everyone's saying cracker. Go look that up. It doesn't mean what you think. I remember when I was younger I really adored my uncle. He'd make up crazy stories to entertain my cousins and I always enjoyed when they'd come to visit cause he'd play with us all the time. Fast forward to 15 years old and all he talks about is politics and crap about how the world is turning upside down cause no one believes in God. He told my mom she should discipline my nephews better more. They're pretty rowdy, cause she wouldn't want them to turn out like all the black kids who don't have good influences in their lives. Girls shouldn't wear shorts even though it's freaking 95 degrees outside. Also, gays are ruining everyone's life and careers. He's one of those annoying I'm being PC kind of jackasses. My mom pulled me aside and told me to not be so rude and sarcastic to him. Apparently he's always been like this and it's something my family puts up with for my aunt's sake. My super nice and conservative grandma smiles when I'm a jerk to him. It's beautiful. It's hard to be the jerk when dealing with a person like that. No matter what you do, you're the better person. He'd been a friend since elementary school. He'd always kind of been in butthole and not many people liked him. Example, in our Boy Scout troop. In high school he really began making xenophobic and gender biased remarks. And god did he love talking about all the girls he hooked up while cheating on his girlfriend were his favorite ones to tell me about. I look back and I don't think I know anyone who was as good as taking advantage of girls' insecurities as well as him. I realized he was a piece of crap, and it increasingly made me uncomfortable, but we'd just been friends for so long, and fortunately didn't have too many overlapping friends. We went to different colleges and increasingly had less contact. He hits me up now every few months but I just ignore him. A person like that just brings no joy to your life. I have several instances that come to mind, but one that sticks out to me a lot is a time my parents told me to organize the kitchen cabinets, go through the plastic tubs and bowls and sort them and such. I was a young teenager, probably a little peeved about having to organize all this crap, and I was also bad at organizing, so I didn't do a fantastic job. My dad walks in and sees that I'm doing a crappy job, and he loses it. He starts yelling at me about how I always half-butt everything, I'm lazy, and then shouts you remind me of the crack NS I have to deal with at work, and that really crushed me. My dad is a police officer, and still is today. His racism and overall bigotry deeply concern me given his career. This specific instance of racism wasn't nearly the worst I had seen from him or other family members, but it sticks out because I guess that's when I realized I could no longer keep making excuses in my mind in order to uphold this image of the person I wish my dad was. This is deep and personal and weird because this is my first post on Reddit, but nobody will likely read this anyway. Oh well. I read it. I learned what a monster a very close friend was when he was arrested for child pornography and weapons charges. I was in his wedding. I had no idea how fricked up he is. When my mom said that she didn't want me to marry a person of color because she didn't want coarse-haired grandkids, she was always like, how would you fall in love with a black person? I could never convince her. Read a Facebook comment from my usually sweet granddad lamenting that he can't use the N-word anymore. He didn't censor it though. It was at the height of the whole Chick-fil-A being anti-gay marriage controversy. I was in the car with my grandparents and they casually mentioned how they should eat there because letting gays get married ruins it for everyone else. Never saw them the same way after that. Hey, they are eating vanilla cake and that's a different flavor than my chocolate cake. They ruined my cake. I'm white. My folks are white. I was dating a guy from Nicaragua in my late teens and brought him home to meet the fam. After he left, I turned to mom and said, well, what do you think? She sniffed and gave me her response, at least he's not black. When my grandmother adamantly argued that black people were happier and better off during segregation. Oh, and my family way back in the past owned plantations, but we were, of course, the good slave owners. I roll. To clarify why it was so surprising to me, she's never used the N-word or outwardly seemed like a xenophobic person, which is why I was so shocked that she'd have these opinions so ingrained into her personal beliefs. About 15 years ago, I used to work with an older gentleman and our company sponsored a bowling tournament. Him and I got drawn as partners and we had a great time. He was the sweetest, nicest man ever. He was Caucasian. I'm Latino. We often chatted in the coffee room or met for lunch on occasion even though we were 20 years or so in age difference. We formed a pickup soccer team and him and his son joined. Again, the sweetest, nicest people ever. Both him and his son. The type that would give you the shirt off their backs. After I left that job, about 6 years ago, we found each other on Facebook, and it revealed what a sectarian he really was. The Obama presidency really revealed this, and Trump just cemented it. His friends list is an echo chamber that cheers on and justifies every xenophobic post he makes. It was really disappointing. The 2016 election really brought it out of a lot of people. My grandma told me not to hang out with my Asian friend because she believes Asian guys hit girls. I clearly didn't listen to her because I'm currently friends with 3 Asian guys. What she said still infuriates me to this day though. A guy I used to be friends with was homophobic as heck. I tried to get him to accept the fact that there's nothing wrong with people being attracted to the same gender. His response was, you can give them respect but they're all going to heck anyway. I stopped being friends with him. Good, I think he might be going to heck for damning 10% of mankind. The moment they were showing me my old playroom and it was filled with guns, weapons, I think there was a straight up RPG hung on the wall, and he looked at me and said, this is for when the dang, insert race here, start to take over my freaking country. That's some Far Cry 5 crap, dude. My husband's aunt has lived in South Carolina for 20 years and boy does it show. She told us a story once about how she got lost while driving and realized she needed to ask for directions. She said, so then I see this black church, and people were coming and going out of the church, and I thought to myself, well, they can't all be bad. They're in church, like it was some hypothesis she was forming based on an educated guess. Dang it, the one time I see my home state mentioned and it is in the context of racism. I knew that my dad was xenophobic when he informed 14-year-old me that if I ever dated a black guy he would never speak to me again. gender biased when he said that women shouldn't be in any position of leadership because of PMS. Xenophobic when the all people who look even vaguely the realization that he is a stubborn jackass who is completely unwilling to learn about anything that might threaten his rightful place in the world or goes against what he thinks is right is something that is reinforced almost daily, as is his inability to walk in someone else's shoes. Position of leadership because of PMS. It's sad that you still see young men believe this in today's age of information. You can still see this crap on Breitbart. Birth control makes women ugly, crazy, suicidal, etc. PMS makes women into she-hulks. It's so stupid and yet they have a loyal readership. My uncle, some gems. In reference to black people crossing the street, they should have to wear vests or lights or something so I can see them. We have a small Islamic center half a block away from us. Anytime anyone drives poorly around that specific intersection, he always says something along the lines of they're probably one of those refugees going to bang their heads against the ground. He was dropping me off at school and looked over to the bus driver. "Oh, so your bus driver is a woman? Yeah, are you sure she's qualified for that job?" Actually, anytime anyone is a bad driver, they are either a woman or a refugee. Anytime anyone tries to save money on anything or says something is too expensive, he calls them Jewy. We live on a busy street. Lots of people walk. He would only commentate on the people who were either overweight, indigenous people, in Muslim attire or black. He's also on record as saying fat people aren't nice people. You shouldn't be talking to them, despite being at least 100 pounds overweight. When I told him I wanted to be a software engineer, he asked if I wanted to go into something I was better suited for, like a nurse or a teacher. Why would I want to be a nurse? Well, you could meet a nice doctor. We went to my aunt's wedding. She just so happened to be getting married to her wonderful girlfriend of 5 years. Before the wedding, he grumbled about how it wasn't proper. After, he said it was nice, I guess. I thought he made a breakthrough. By the next day, he was back to grumbling about how it wasn't proper. He was also a fan of Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines. I knew it. When I introduced my Hispanic girlfriend to my parents, Dad got visibly unhappy when he saw her and pulled me aside to tell me that this better be a freaking joke. This was pretty shocking, considering he had never seemed to dislike Hispanics and acted friendly enough to a neighboring Mexican family when I was growing up. Luckily I had already moved out, so I can't avoid speaking to him. Most of the communicating we do is through my mother, which is how he told me that he wouldn't be coming to our wedding if I were to marry her. He wouldn't be coming to our wedding. Fantastic. One less thing to stress out about. My brother started dating a girl who was white but had a very black sounding name. So before anyone in the family had met her, my cousins, a few of my aunts and I were sitting in the yard and one of my aunts asked what her name was. My cousin tells her and there's this awkward silence. Then my cousin says she's white though. My other aunt breathes a sigh of relief and says, "Oh good. Yeah, we can't be having any of that." I was so shocked because out of all of my family members she's always been the kindest, warmest person. I felt like I had been slapped across the face. It was so unexpected. More. I wouldn't trust a black child, not as much as a white one. Those racial slurs should stay on their side of town. These are all different people. I have nothing to do with any of them. At first I thought you meant they literally said racial slurs. Right after the 2012 election, my husband's mom and my mom were over to see us and our baby. Making conversation, we were talking about the election and I asked my mother-in-law, "Did you vote for Obama?" And her answer was, "No way, I'd never vote for a black guy." I knew she was Southern, but she'd been up north 25 plus years and I had known her 7 years already. When she left I asked my husband, "Is your mom xenophobic?" And he answered, "Oh yeah," like it was common knowledge. When my brother's mother-in-law told my mom after dinner at a restaurant, "This town isn't so bad. There aren't any Puerto Ricans, I mean Mexicans," as though that changes things. She also said the black people in conversation the last time I saw her, when an old co-worker told me gay people were gross and said AIDS was caused by dongs being near fecal matter. What is wrong with people? A couple years ago, I was talking to an old friend who said that he lost respect for a mutual friend when he realized that she supported the LGBT community. He also bragged about bullying a gay kid at school. Little did he know that I myself am bi. I idolized my cousin growing up. He was an infantry soldier prior 9/11 and during the Iraq War was deployed a number of times. I always talked about him and excited every time he came home. Grew up thinking he was a great person, husband, and father. Wasn't until I went on a long visit to his home I realized how horrible he was. He told me stories of his platoon and how he would make fun and encourage soldiers who were suicidal. He pushed soldiers to a breaking point if they were considered fat, would give the local tribes a hard time when he was deployed. And yeah, he was xenophobic, but that runs in the family, it didn't surprise me. Also, he had a kid from his first marriage that he wouldn't acknowledge unless it was his year where he claimed the kid in his taxes. Treated the kid like crap whenever he saw him. Kid was a great baseball player. Saw one of his games, he was amazing. But yet my cousin would tell him all the flaws he saw and how he wouldn't add up to anything. I lost all respect to my cousin once I realized the kid didn't have our last name. When I asked why, I could remember the kid having our last name when he was a baby. I was told his now wife had him ask his ex to change it because only current wife kids were allowed to have our last name and she didn't want to have the bastard to have it. No longer talked to my cousin and his B of a wife. Was very heartbroken when I realized how wrong I was growing up on idolizing someone so heartless. Just had a co-worker come up to me not too long ago and go on a rant about the differences between black people and why one of our black co-workers was one of the good ones. I went straight to HR. Man, I wish I worked with Chris Rock. I started noticing that whenever my dad, a police officer, was asked about work, he would identify which minorities are particularly troublesome right now. Relative. So, how's work going? My dad, it's the Indians right now. Good to hear we're in good hands. Did not mean to sound condescending sarcastic in order to offend you, just bothers me that although the law judiciary system is meant to be just and not blinded by parameters such as race, gender, etc., the actors of the system will have their biases and prejudices highlighted by your anecdote. A guy we hung out with used to play these hilarious songs on his guitar, singing about how we're gonna send them all back to Africa, and we thought it was really funny. He was really committed to the act too. He worked at this meat processing factory which played German propaganda songs throughout the day and had a Confederate flag hanging on his wall and everything. Such great commitment to an obvious joke. Haha. When my dad went on a rant about how Mexicans really do violate people more because of their culture. Also, all women make up violation lies to ruin men. Trump really brought the worst out of him. I haven't been able to look at him the same since. So debauchery is a real and serious problem, but only when committed by Mexicans. I'm Chinese and you know how older Chinese people can go a bit far. My cousin got a black boyfriend and when my grandma told me she had a bit of laughter. I love my grandma, but she can be a bit xenophobic sometimes. She has gotten better though. She loves my cousin's boyfriend, probably because he is the best guy in the world. My boyfriend is Chinese and his dad is awful. His dad once told him if you are going to just play around and frick, then frick an American girl. When you decide to settle down, find a Chinese girl. When grandma threatened to shoot my dad after telling us about how she threatened to beat her teenage nephew with firewood and disowned her brother for swearing. Later I learned she didn't care for Asian people because to her they're all Japanese and therefore responsible for all the atrocities committed by the Japanese during World War II. Get to go see her for Easter. I had a really wicked push dagger. My aunt saw it and blurted, "Wow, let me see that in." Get her. I was 17. I told her not to use that word. She said it's fine. I have black friends so I started calling her C. It's okay. Some of my best friends are girls. My mom realized that my great grandma, her grandmother-in-law, was xenophobic when they told her they were adopting a child and she said just don't get a black one. GMIL's brother was also in the KKK. When I was much younger my dad and I walked past an Asian woman talking on the phone. He proceeded to mock the Chinese language by saying random gibberish. I didn't laugh. Another time my dad received a phone call from an uncle who recently converted to Islam. I overheard him say, "Oh, so you're a terrorist now?" as a joke. My mum is Muslim. Recently, I revealed more about my social life to him and said that a close friend of mine is from China. He said I knew it and, again, mocked the language. I responded with a disappointed, straight face. I was watching TV with my dad and Annie came on. There was a scene that featured the Rockettes. The film took place in the 30s, so they were all white, and my dad commented, "They're all black now." No, Dad, not even close. They're all black now. No, Dad, not even close. I think there's 3 black ones ATM. I have a really close friend, kind of a mother figure to me. I've been friends with her for over 20 years. A couple of months ago, we were in a lineup at the IKEA cafeteria. A woman and her husband got in line behind us. The woman had just gotten a scooter and was really uncomfortable with using it. She was trying to back up and hit the little divider poles and she looked really embarrassed. My friend and I smiled at her and made small talk to help her feel comfortable. She and her husband had grateful looks on their face. I felt good about how nice my friend and I were. A few minutes later, we were seated, and the woman scooted by with her husband. They both smiled at us. After they went past, my friend said, in the most acidic, cruel voice I'd ever heard, "I hope that bee is actually handicapped and isn't just a fat, lazy frick." I was shocked to my core. I did say something back to her about how you can't tell if someone is handicapped just by looking at them. I've pulled back quite a bit from her since that day. She doesn't know why. I feel badly because she is older and kind of lonely, but man, what a freaking cruel thing to say. It was hate-filled. I was laid up for a while recovering from chemo and a few surgeries, and had to use those scooters at Walmart and other stores. You would not believe the nasty looks you get from people. Everyone assumes you're just being lazy. On my 18th birthday I went with my grandma gambling in the Native American reservations. We were on our way and were stopped at customs. My grandma proceeded to say that we would not be stopped because we are white. Then proceeded to tell me a story about the Mexicans and used the term the crazy Mexicans. After that experience more and more things would slip out of her brain. For example, they just love working in the fields in the sun. As I read it now I'm just shaking my head because I could sit here and type all day about her old Timmy xenophobic ideas. When my grandmom said that all the crime in her city was caused by the Native Americans, in front of my siblings and I, who are Métis, I make sure to call her out on all that crap now. Yeah, at 4.3% of the population I don't think that Canada's indigenous peoples are numerous enough to be responsible for all the crime. Wednesday, my mom and I have a very strained relationship despite, or because of LOL, us living together. I was describing our latest blow up during a therapy session. As the conversation went on my therapist stopped me mid-sentence and said, "Ginny Potter, that's abuse. She is abusing you." And it all clicked. Her treatment of me, the way my anxiety and depression manifest itself, how I act in a relationship, everything that I was confused about and thought that I was the cause of all these problems were not my fault. Of course, I have some responsibility in the situation, but finally have a trained professional say, "You're not wrong here." She is. And that's how I realized my mom is a mentally and financially abusive to me, and only me. She adores my sister. Please see my post history. You might be me, GC sister. Taking all my money or trying to still anyway, saying I only had friends because I paid them, and telling my boyfriend I was a prostitute. I hope you can leave soon. Was with a group of friends and randomly started talking about flat earth believers. One of our friends started saying that he was one of them and we all laughed. He started talking about how spherical earth was just a theory and how nothing could be proven, and the rest of us looked around at each other with a "no way, this can't be real" look. He was dead serious. We collectively started to talk about gravity and northern southern hemispheres and time and day night in different time zones. He wouldn't budge. He directed us to watch YouTube videos about how society is being brainwashed about the earth and how there are new continents below Antarctica that they don't want us to find. Sad. My so's mother, her topic of concern as to why we shouldn't be together was, think about it, insert so's name. She's a short Mexican. How would you feel if you had a son that was short? Man, that's got layers of prejudice. I hope all of your children are short and beautiful. When I told my grandmother and my great aunt I was pregnant by my ex and he wasn't in the picture, no hard feelings, he just wasn't ready to be a dad. My great aunt told me you should have expected this, but at least you picked a white Hispanic, he's Cuban and Puerto Rican. I just walked away. My grandma didn't say anything, but she didn't disagree with her sister either. As a Puerto Rican man, you'd be surprised by the amount of times I've heard, "Oh, you Puerto Rican men are trouble," basically alluding that because I'm a Puerto Rican man, that I am a man ho. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.